Am I the a-hole for refusing to financially assist my uncle? Because when the situations were reversed, he didn't financially assist my parents and I. 15 years ago, my family suffered a series of unfortunate events that forced us on the edge of poverty. Fortunately, through the generosity of our extended family, we managed to make it through to the other end, if just barely. This generosity meant that much more, considering that most of my extended family themselves suffered from financial hardship. The exception is my uncle. At the time, he was several years into his career as an engineer at one of the top engineering firms, and yet he entirely ignored my family's plight. While my family struggled, Jeff was flaunting a six-figure BMW, which is his right, of course. Though I'd be lying if I said I didn't feel some resentment, but I understand that this resentment stemmed from a place of entitlement. Fast forward 15 years, and fortunately my family are much better off. I've since graduated, almost a decade into my career, and I'm in the fortuitous position of being able to ensure that my family never has to worry about money ever again. In those same 15 years, my uncle has found his own engineering firm and was wildly successful, until the pandemic forced his business into involuntary administration. The situation is now dire enough that several months ago, my uncle began asking the extended family for financial assistance. But what he needed was beyond what the extended family could provide, though the extended family did do the best that they could. I've thus far kept silent. Unfortunately, that silence has not gone by unnoticed. My uncle called me earlier today asking for a $10,000 loan to keep his son enrolled in his son's private school. He tried to sell me some sob story about how disruptive it would be to my cousin's development if he would be forced to change schools in his pivotal development period. Frankly, I don't see how any of that is my problem. Had my uncle supported my family when we asked him for it, I would have gone to the moon and back for him, as I have done for the members of my extended family that did help my family. But he didn't, so why should I? Am I the a-hole? Now for the comments. Not the a-hole. I was thinking two wrongs don't make a right, and helping him out would be great, until I got to $10,000 loan to keep his son enrolled in his son's private school. So, if it were to keep your uncle off the street or out of the soup kitchen, I'd say help him. But to keep your cousin in an expensive private school? Nope, that's a luxury nobody needs, especially when you're in a financial trouble. His posh school is not your problem. Two wrongs absolutely make a right. Also, while we're on the topic, I always tell people to take the high road, so that way it will leave more room for me on the low road. Not today, home. A private school is not need to have, it is nice to have. He wouldn't even help you with need to have, so you most definitely do not need to finance his nice to have. Fully agree with this. Not today, home. He's not entitled to give you help, although it would have been nice and kind, but you're not entitled to help either. He wants to save face and keep his son in private school. His kid will be fine in a public school until he gets back on his feet. The fact that he couldn't even offer you guys $100 when you desperately needed it to keep food on the table, he now expects you to give him $10,000? Nuh-uh. God forbid you're in a bad financial situation again, cause I don't see him offering help in the future. Not today, home. We call this karma. Also, $10,000 for private school? If we were in hardship, I would place my child somewhere else. Your uncle sounds entitled. Maybe he should sell his car. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for revealing to my wife's family we didn't purchase our house, but it was inherited from my mother? To start, I want to mention that my wife and my late mother never had a very strong relationship. Yes, they were cordial to each other, but had many disagreements. Mom passed away and left me a one-story house as my only inheritance. No one lived in it after she renovated it, so it looked fairly new. My wife was happy and excited when we moved in that she posted a video on social media and wrote that the house was bought with our money. I didn't know about her saying that until later. Her aunt was visiting from a distance to see the house my wife told her we purchased. We sat to eat and chat a bit, and her aunt brought up the house's value asking how we could afford to buy it so suddenly. I was confused as my wife went on about putting money we've saved together towards buying it. I asked what she was talking about, and her aunt said my wife told her the house was bought with our money and cost X amount. I corrected her saying this wasn't true, because this house belonged to my mom, and she gave it to me after her passing. I added that no, we're not doing well financially to be able to afford this house. Room went radio silence. My wife's aunt said, "What?" I'm sorry, I didn't know that. My wife's cousin side-eyed her and said, so, isn't this mother-in-law the same mother-in-law you hated for years? Shame she's not here so you can thank her for leaving you this nice house. My wife was stunned at this point and excused herself to the bathroom. She didn't come out till they left. Then she blew up at me asking why I told them the house was inherited from my mom and making her look like a liar in front of them. I redirected a question at her and asked why she told them otherwise. She said there was no harm in showing off our new property and that people will appreciate us more for saying we bought it with our own money instead of inheriting it. I argued that this was wrong and unfair for my mom even if they never got along. She argued that I ruined her joy and humiliated her in front of her family. And because word got out, now everyone knows and will think she's a liar when I could have simply played along, since my mom wouldn't possibly mind it, or cause an issue over it now that she's deceased, so it won't matter to her. I stormed out after arguing with her and refusing to admit I messed up and not being part of the lie. Am I the a-hole? Edit. I didn't know about what my wife was doing up until that dinner. I then discovered a social media post and how many family and friends thought this house was purchased with our own money. I even have no idea how long this has been going on. Made her look like a liar. Didn't make her look like one. Her own behavior made her a liar. Not today, Hall. Well, I ain't calling her a truther. Not today, Hall. She ain't no truther. Not today, Hall. She's the sole reason she feels bad. She's lucky to have an honest husband. She didn't tell you her story, meaning she knew that you wouldn't like it. She should have been honest with you instead of expecting you to lie. Also, I feel that it's not considerate or equal that she dismissed what you and your family was able to offer her, and instead take the credit. Disrespectful and manipulative. I hope she can come to her senses and take accountability for her actions. Not today, Hall. Your wife is a liar and should never have said that. Give credit where credit is due. Your mom deserves the credit. Plain and simple. Plus, it sounds like she was bad-mouthing your mom more than you know. The way the aunt said, oh, the woman you hated? Definitely not today, Hall. Not today, Hall. She called you a liar? You were not the one who lied here. You did not know she had made up this act. How could you play along? And why would you? This is completely disrespectful to your mother and her memory. Regardless if they got along or not, you don't have to like someone to be respectful. You did not make her look like a liar or humiliate her. She made herself rightfully look like a liar and humiliated herself. She should not be upset with you at all. She should be upset with herself. She owes you and her family a huge apology. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for turning a family vacation home into an Airbnb and charging my cousin to have her wedding there? Some background. My grandparents owned a 4-bedroom lake house with about an acre of land for about 25 years. Through the years, they hosted many family events and people visited often to get a free getaway. Then last year, they wanted to move into a nice old folks home that's basically a resort. And to do that and finance the rest of the years, they sold their main condo and put this up for sale. I bought it at what was a fair rate at the time, and it has since gone up in value about 25% due to the recent housing surge. I just finished with some renovations and officially got it listed on Airbnb as a side hustle. This summer, I've gotten lots of requests from family to visit, and I've said no because it's being renovated. I also told them I intend to use it as an income stream, not a family vacation home. I got some pushback, but held firm. Well, now my cousin just got engaged, and they want to plan a May 2022 wedding on a specific day that has significance to them. This will end up being over Memorial Day weekend. My cousin Jean called me and asked if they could have it at the lake house since there's so much land for an outdoor wedding, and she and her fiancé met there years ago. His family's friends with our family. I told her that I anticipate renting it out that weekend, and that she can have first dibs for the days needed and sent her the link to reserve it. She then realized this would run her close to $6,000 plus deposits and service fees, so really like $8,000. She flapped out, saying that this is a family event at a family house, so I shouldn't charge. She then said it should be like my wedding gift. I told her, Jean, my wedding was 3 years ago, and you got me a set of knives, which I do like. It's not really fair to say I should basically give you $6,000. She flipped, called me greedy and a terrible family member, then hung up. Since this, my parents, aunt and uncle, and one sister all told me that I was being greedy as well. My brother who helped with the renovations is on my side 100%, And my grandparents told me they'd love to see a wedding there, but said they sold me the house with no conditions, so they won't pressure me. But I've been getting so much flack from a couple of people in my family. Edit. I'm done responding to comments now due to how many I've gotten, but to answer comment questions. In purchasing it from my grandparents, I made it clear that it would no longer be a family home and that I would be using it for an income stream. They knew this before selling. Jean and I are not close. She's one of 13 cousins on that side of the family. We are 7 years apart and see each other probably 1 to 2 times a year at most. Part of my thinking for charging is that I don't want my place to turn into a de facto family spot. It was not cheap. I had to take out mortgage to pay for it. For people not from the US, Memorial Day weekend is probably the most popular weekend for pool parties / lake house rentals, etc. It's literally the most valuable weekend to own a lake house. I told her I'd give her first dibs on it before opening it up to anyone, but it will easily get rented that weekend otherwise. The current price that people have called ridiculous is based off what the surrounding places of this size are going for. Since listing at that rate, it has been getting booked super fast. It have been encouraged to raise the rate. It is not overpriced for its market at all. What I would charge is actually less than what the average venue would charge for the number of guests she wants. She'd be saving about 40% from what a traditional venue would charge. I would also only charge the normal rate, not the holiday rate that Airbnb told me I should, and would for anyone else. So that is effectively a 30% discount off the bat. Now for the comments. I get why she asked. But she and your whole family, except brother and grandparents, have to remember this isn't a family property anymore. You shelled out cold, hard cash for it and spent more money renovating it. Not day whole. If she wants her wedding there, she has to pay. Maybe there's some sort of discount you could throw her way, but not required, and doesn't sound like she'd even appreciate it. It is no longer a family home. You used your money to purchase and renovate it. You need to make this clear to your family that it is not a vacation home for them to use. For all intents and purposes, it is a venue for those who rent out for party weekends, etc. I agree that you could offer them a discount for that weekend. If you do choose to offer them a discount, I would make sure that it is through the website so that any incidentals are covered / that is insured, not day whole. This is why I think it's always a bad idea to buy what was once family property. The family that doesn't buy it always expects to continue using it. I inherited the 120-year-old family home. It took about 5 years for most of my relatives to stop assuming that they could just show up and stay with me for a week or whatever. Some of them still haven't learned, even after having the door shut in their faces. I'm not my grandmother or her father. I don't do drop-in long-term visitors just because they're family. You're the a-hole. Notice your grandparents try to gently persuade you? You are within your rights legally, but the cost to your familial relationship may be severe. It is interesting that you admit that the date is significant. They didn't intend it to be a holiday weekend, and you admit that they even met there, so it has sentimental connection. You could choose to make money and be viewed as the guy who ruined the family getaway, or you could decide to allow weddings to be held there. Not free annual vacations, just the big events, and be viewed as a generous and beloved family member. The one you prioritize is up to you. Last story. Am I the a-hole for adjusting the budget for gifts for nieces and nephews after my brother gained step-kids? My brother was a single dad to Kai, 10 male, and Ella 8 female since Ella was a baby. I was always a pretty generous aunt because for the most part, really expensive stuff were common interests. Game console, trampoline, go-kart, so they shared and didn't mind. I could also do more small stuff because it was 2 versus a bunch of them. I even secured them a PS5, thanks to a friend when the initial pre-orders went up and it cost me a ton. But it was a joint birthday gift for both. They have September and November birthdays. In October, my brother announced he was engaged and the wedding was 2 weeks away. We found out his wife lived across the country with her kids and was moving in the day before the wedding. It was a big surprise, but what was worse was, apparently, even though I got something for all kids, he was pissed off at me for spending less than I had past years. I said nothing for months. Then his 6-year-old stepson's birthday was last week, and he confronted me afterward. He said I hadn't spent as much as I usually do, that I financially treated my bi-niece/nephew different to my step-nieces/nephews, and that the birthday gift showed that. I told him that wasn't true, and it was unfair for me to increase my budget to include 4 more kids. which would cost me thousands on Christmas alone and for birthday gifts throughout the year. I said I had budget for each kid at Christmas and had the same plan for birthdays. And that, yes, it was less individually than other years. But technically, I still spent more than I had previously. But I just did it so I could be both fair and not put myself into debt. He said it was still favoritism and hurt his step-kids, because they saw the stuff kind Al got from me the past years and what they got from me. I told him he couldn't expect people to spend the same per kid for 6 as they did for 2. Pointed out it was a huge difference. He thinks I was an a-hole for it. Am I? Is he right here? Not a hole. Your brother is not the sharpest tool in this shed. You were doing everything right. He moved his wife and her 4 kids in the day before the wedding. Obviously, he is not very sharp. Not a hole. First of all, gifts are extras, not things you should take for granted. Second, I would think his boy kids would have a harder time adjusting to everything in their life being turned upside down on such short notice. Had they even met their new siblings before they moved in? Third, how do these step-kids know who bought everything? Did your brother go through the house and label gifts with a giver and price tag? Something is wrong here. Either his new wife is pushing this, or is trying to compensate/smooth things over in your dime. They had met once before. About a month before they moved in with them, my brother took them for a visit. Not sure how they knew. It could be a huge exaggeration on my brother's part too. Not an a-hole. Your brother is an idiot who thinks you have unlimited funds and got used to you spoiling the kids. But instead of being grateful for everything you've given them thus far, that they can share with their step-siblings, he's angry because he can no longer afford to spend ludicrous amounts on 6 kids. He's probably feeling his finances aren't going as far as they used to, but is taking it out on the wrong person. My issue with the whole thing is the kids don't share a common interest anymore as a group. Kinda do, but what they like the others don't like. My step-nieces and step-nephews have different interests to each other, and different to what kind Ella like. So the one big gift thing is gone too. But I bet he will complain that I don't give anything for them all to use too. Update. My best friend, female 26, slept with my cheating ex, male 28, and tried to hide it. Original post. I feel like I'm in some kind of sick joke. I don't even know how to process this. The 2 people I trusted the most completely betrayed me, and one of them is standing here acting like I should be happy for her. For context, my ex and I broke up a year ago after I found out he had been cheating on me for months. And not just with one girl. He had a whole rotation. When I finally dumped his lying ass, I was shattered, but at least I had my best friend Emily. She was furious at him, called him a narcissist a-hole, swore I should never even look at his direction again. She was the one who told me I deserved so much better. Fast forward to last week, Emily started acting off, distant, canceling plans, taking forever to text back, and when she did, she was dry. I figured maybe she was stressed or dating someone new, but something in my gut told me she was hiding something. Then a mutual friend casually mentioned seeing her at a bar with my ex. Just the 2 of them. My stomach dropped. I texted Emily immediately. "Were you with my ex the other night?" It took her hours to reply. Then she hit me with, "Yeah, I ran into him. It was totally random. We just caught up for a sec." BS. At this point, I knew something was up. So I decided to do some digging. And that's when I found out the real story, and not from Emily, but from someone else. Apparently, she had been seeing him for weeks. It wasn't some random run-in. She had been sneaking around, sleeping with the same guy who destroyed me, while pretending to be my best friend. I was shaking with rage when I confronted her. I didn't even give her time to weasel her way out of it. I just looked her in the eye and said, "How long have you been sleeping with my ex?" Her face went pale. At first, she tried a fake innocence act. "What are you talking about?" So I told her everything I knew. She opened and closed her mouth like a fish, then finally sighed and said, "I was going to tell you." "Oh, you were going to tell me? When? After the honeymoon phase? After you got engaged?" Or maybe when you needed a bridesmaid. Then she hit me with, I know this is going to sound crazy, but he's really changed. I almost laughed. Changed? The same guy who lied to my face every day for months? The same guy who swore he was faithful while texting other girls in my bed? That guy changed? I asked her if she actually gave a damn about me. About how she held me while I cried over him. About how she ranted about how disgusting he was. How she swore he'd never forgive him either. And you know what she said? I do, but people make mistakes. At that point, I couldn't even look at her. I walked out. And now, she's blowing up my phone, apologizing, saying she never meant to hurt me, that she didn't plan for this to happen, that love is complicated. No, lust is complicated. Betrayal is complicated. This is just disgusting. I don't think I can ever look at her the same way again, but we've been friends since we were in preschool. This hurts so much, I don't know how I can go on, or if I can even forgive her. How do I get the picture of them out of my mind? Now for the top advice before reading the update. Obviously, she isn't your friend, but I'll cheat on her so she'll lose both of you. And that's karma. Just make sure to get the word out so she can't spread a false narrative. Some of my friends think I'm too harsh and controlling who she dates when I tried venting to them and think I shouldn't end a friendship over this. Those friends are wrong, and I'd watch them carefully for the same type of behavior. I posted on this thread 2 years ago where my ex-best friend of 20 years slept with my ex-boyfriend who was verbally abusive, multiple times at that. The reason I did so was because all of our mutual friends, and I mean all, were taking their side. But I knew deep down what they did was awful. Not loving in any way. A betrayal that no one in their mid-20s should be able to do. I confronted her in a much kinder way than you, lol. Hoped that we could build trust back. She apologized deeply and said everything will be better. Lies. What was I expecting? As expected by everyone else but me, the friend still took her side, and I was left without the group I've known for years. Anyways, I bring this up because my life is so much better now. She was a horrible friend, and now I see it clear as day. I have friends who, though I haven't known them 20 years, there will be a day I can say that and know how deeply I love them, and they love me. I know you're fearing a loss you invested so much time in, but I promise you there is a much, much greener pasture on the other side, and it's all yours. Please take the plunge, lose those evil people, and cut ties with anyone who supports her decision to betray you in any way. They're not good people either. I'm so sorry that happened. This helped me, though, thank you. Honestly, as odd as it is, I'm glad it happened. The friend group was such low quality, and I was blind to it. I'm happy I didn't waste another 20 years on those people. Hysterical that the way I left was because of the one person I trusted most. The world works in mysterious ways that all you really had to do is laugh. You may not know it now, but there are people who are meant to be in your life in your mid-20s that are much better for you. Ones that you can't invest in if you stay so close to someone who happily betrays you in this way. Your friend did make a mistake. She was actively hiding something that she was actively doing multiple times. Please do not let that knowledge go for some sunk cost fallacy. If you feel lonely, please message me and you can rant all you want. What they did was horrible, and no one should be able to invalidate your feelings. I didn't look back, and I don't regret it at all. Good luck! Now for the update. I wasn't really planning on posting an update, but things have gotten even messier, and I needed to vent. After I cut Emily off, I thought that was it. I made it clear that I didn't want anything to do with her, but apparently she's been telling people her own version of what happened, and now some of our mutual friends are turning against me. At first she kept texting me, apologizing and saying she never meant to hurt me. I ignored it. Then she switched tactics and started making it seem like I'm the one overreacting. She's been telling people that I'm trying to ruin her happiness. That I'm mad for no reason because it's not like I was still with him, and that I should just accept that they have a connection. Now, some of our friends are acting weird around me. A few have even said they think I'm being too harsh, and that she didn't cheat on me. So why does it matter? One even told me I don't own my ex. They even had the audacity to show me Emily's Instagram story of them both.
I never said I owed either of them, but it's like they're both shoving it in my face now the cat's out of the bag. And they have no shame. Never in my wildest dreams or nightmares did I see my best friend, who saw firsthand how much she hurt me, would turn around and start dating him. And now, publicly. I still have a few friends on my side, but it's frustrating that I'm now being seen as bitter or dramatic for cutting her off. It's not about wanting him back. It's about trust. And at this point, I don't even recognize Emily anymore. I don't regret my decision, but now I'm losing even more people than just her, and it's not even my fault. It makes me feel like I'm going crazy, like I was the one who did something wrong. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my dad's mistress I don't care about their possible deaths? My parents' marriage ended just over a year ago after my mom learned my dad was having an affair. My dad and his mistress have been together for about 6 years by then, and I think he wanted my mom to find out. Since my older siblings had already moved out, and I, 18 female, was almost grown, he wasn't as concerned about hiding it anymore. To me and my siblings, it seemed like he hated my mom, and from the way he spoke, it felt like he resented her for ever being happy with him. We all cut him off when we found out. He tried to fight it, telling us he still loved us, that he was still our dad, and that he still wanted the best for us. But none of us wanted the best for him. My brother told him he hoped the rest of his life would be miserable. Weeks after my mom filed for divorce, my dad texted me and my siblings to tell us that his mistress was pregnant. He even sent us a sonogram photo, but none of us cared enough to reconnect with him or keep him in our lives. I still live at home with my mom while attending community college. My siblings visit, but they live out of state now. A couple of weeks ago, my dad's mistress showed up at the coffee shop where I worked and tried to talk to me. I stayed professional and told her that personal conversations were not allowed at work. She left but came back when my shift was ending, trying to talk to me again as I walked home. I told her I had nothing to say to her. She wanted me to look at and meet her baby, but I walked away before she could take the baby out of the stroller. She showed up again a few days later, this time without the baby. She told me to think about how short life is and how my dad could die tomorrow, implying that I would regret cutting him out of my life. I told her I didn't care if either of them died. I told her they were sick and twisted, and I was letting him go. I said I didn't care about him, her, or their baby. I also warned her that if she wanted to protect her child from the truth, she had better keep them away from me and my siblings, because we wanted nothing to do with them and wouldn't pretend otherwise just to make them happy. I then told her to leave me alone, or I would go to the police for harassment. Later that day, I received a DM from a random account calling me heartless for not caring whether my dad or his mistress died. Since she was the only person I said that to, I deleted the message and moved on. But she also told my dad's family, and now some of them are saying I should still care about my dad and the baby because they are a family. Another relative said the mistress had done nothing wrong to me or my family, and that she owed my mom nothing. I brushed off what they said, but it made me wonder, was I wrong to say I didn't care? Either way, I won't apologize. I'll just ignore them if she or my dad tries again in the future. Am I the a-hole? Actions have consequences. Your father's wife was cruel to stalk you, and she set herself up for a conversation she wouldn't like. Maybe things will change in the future, or maybe they won't, but not the a-hole. My feelings about not having a relationship definitely won't change. I've lost all respect for him, and I really don't care about her or their child. Blood doesn't mean as much to me as it does to some people. Even though the baby didn't do anything wrong, I see them as just another random baby in the world, not family, and not someone I desperately want a relationship with. The mistress did nothing wrong? She owed your mom nothing? Is that relative out of their freaking mind? She spread her legs to a married man and he went right along with it. Your sperm donor, aka dad, was sleeping with another woman for 6 years, not caring about the wife and kids he already had. His filth, and for his family to come after you? It's obvious they're okay with him cheating you, your mom, and taking a dump on his own family. They're enablers. Blood isn't family. If you want nothing more to do with them, block them, contact the police and a lawyer, and then file a restraining order if the harassment continues. When a person cheats on their spouse, they also cheat on their family and their kids. They don't care about their own children. Too bad the courts don't take away parental rights permanently from people like that. The relative said the mistress wasn't married to mom or a part of our family then, and owed us nothing. That only my dad did. I don't see it that way though. She expected us to be a family once she and dad were together officially, and that was never going to happen. I think it's sick she expected it. A lot of people say cheating doesn't make someone a bad parent, just a bad spouse, that it shouldn't mean losing custody and stuff. I don't think anywhere in the US allows it now. But cheating destroys the family and creates conflict unless you expect people to be doormats who can't get angry at a cheating spouse or partner once they have children together. It's unrealistic and doesn't make sense to me. Last story. My coworker broke up with her boyfriend and it is because of my husband and I. As the title says, my coworker broke up with her boyfriend of many years because of my husband and me. Despite how it sounds, this is a positive story and something I didn't even realize was happening. For some context, my husband and I work at the same company, though we're in slightly different departments. We have the same shift and normally get to take lunch together and interact frequently throughout the day. We always maintain work-appropriate behavior with each other while on the clock, though if it is low, we will occasionally have more friendly interactions. My coworker, I'll call her Mel, started working with us almost a year ago. She's very sweet, but seemed very shy and sensitive. Initially, our department worried she wouldn't work out because it was incredibly difficult to give her corrections. Even saying something like, "Oh, you wouldn't know this, but this client will always request this incorrectly, and what they really need is this process," would make her excuse herself to the bathroom because she'd start to cry. I now know this should have been a red flag, but the only relationship abuse I'd seen personally had been physical. And while that could have been happening too, I never met her boyfriend and never saw any bruises. About 2 months ago, she told us she had moved, and though I didn't pry, I could hear in her conversation that she wasn't including her boyfriend in the process. I stayed quiet, though I had my suspicions, and watched her come out of her shell. She was smiling more. She became less sensitive and seemed overall much happier. I didn't ask or question it, but simply enjoyed working with her in a better overall mood. About 2 or 3 weeks ago, we had a lull at work, and she started opening up to me. Mal confirmed that she had left her boyfriend and that it had been a long time coming. But she said that my husband and I were the reason she finally realized her relationship wasn't healthy and that she deserved better. Mel told me that she watched how we behaved with each other and initially just thought we were a unique couple with a strange personality. But she noticed that we never yell, even when we disagreed, and that we worked together to find solutions. And it wasn't just us. Our other coworkers had similar reactions when mistakes came up or disagreements happened. No one screamed or called each other stupid. We searched for solutions and expressed concerns, and no one cried. She also told me she had been afraid to see us drink alcohol because she was worried we'd turn into lunatics. This was at a department outing for a birthday where we all had one drink. Obviously, no one became belligerent, and she seemed very unsettled by this. Again, no one asked questions because it wasn't our business, but we assumed she had a bad history with alcohol, which turned out to be true. She told me that on multiple occasions, she had to search for her partner at 3 a.m. because he was drunk somewhere. He would berate her on the phone and also on a car ride back home. For so long, she worked from home. She didn't know what normal human reactions were supposed to look like. She was very grateful to have watched my husband and me interact, to see how we never talked poorly about each other and only shared healthy expressions of love. It helped her recognize that she deserved better. I was very flattered and humbled to hear that my indirect actions have helped her search for something better for herself. I wasn't even aware that my husband and I had that level of effect on my coworkers. Now for the comments. That's absolutely wonderful. But I'd say she broke up with her crappy boyfriend because of her. She previously didn't know any better and thought her abusive relationship was normal. When she found out it wasn't, she took the initiative to act on it. She deserves insane credit for this, and I hope you tell her so. An awful lot of people in her situation won't demand better and won't make the change. She deserves a lot of credit for her actions. Absolutely. I didn't include our specific words in the post, but I did tell her I was proud she put herself first and took care of her own health. As a mid-50s man happily married for 28 years, I'm not surprised. I tend to find that people in the 25 to 40 range are often immature when it comes to real-life relationships. I'm not sure why. Maybe it's because they're between the previous generation, which didn't have online relationships, and Gen Z, which has fully embraced an online presence. They still rely on the old code, but they live under new rules and expectations. They often tend to be either absolutist or completely clueless. I had a 28-year-old male employee crying because he had been ghosted by his online girlfriend of 3 years. 3 years. Never met her in real life, and he locked himself away to cry for hours. I also had a 26-year-old female employee who desperately wanted to get married but couldn't get her relationships to last more than 3 months. She was so focused on marriage that she neglected her relationships and came across as desperate. Many people are influenced by social media and don't realize they have unrealistic expectations. They don't even see that this makes them toxic. My wife is a couples therapist, and we were invited to the wedding of a friend's daughter. Some of the bride's friends heard about my wife's profession and came to ask her questions. One of the bridesmaids wanted a £100,000 wedding, and her fiancé had refused to finance that extravagance. Her friends egged her on, saying she deserved to have her dream wedding. She wanted to give him an ultimatum. Either he gave in to her demand or they were through. My wife had the audacity to say that as soon as she gave the ultimatum, the relationship would be over or doomed. She could not understand why that was a bad idea. Update. Am I the a-hole for planning on ending our relationship because he acts like his daughter is heiress to my things? This is an update to the story posted yesterday. Link in the description. We formally broke up today, and he made it very difficult to focus on our conversation. He interrupted me every 5 seconds and was in denial for almost half of it. I asked to meet at a small restaurant, public place strategy, to avoid any type of drama. I tried to be respectful, but definitely wanted to bring up my uneasiness and feelings about his behavior. He tried to brush it off at first, but when I insisted, he evaded the subject. I told him what he already knows. My children are my priority as a sole provider, and I want to ensure that they have their needs covered. There were some comments on my other post that I had thought about but hadn't verbalized, like, what would he leave my kids? Or what's his plan for his own kid? I know he doesn't have much, but that's no excuse. When I established the comparison between what he wanted for his kid versus what he would give to mine, his face changed, like I was greedy and he was insulted. He said my kids don't have a dad and that he can provide a paternal figure. This triggered me so much that I had to try and keep my volume in check. My thought is that being there like a piece of furniture in exchange for financial benefits for his own kid is acceptable to him. I would have loved for my kids to have a decent dad, but that's just not in the cards. And right now, I'm better off alone than with Ben. I was so angry that he kept asking me to calm down. He said he's leaving his daughter with good knowledge on life in general, because there are things that only he can offer since her mom is too secular, whatever that means, and I didn't ask him. I said that we needed to break up, and he immediately got upset and left our table. I thought he was gone, but he came back later and claimed he only went to use the restroom. I told him that I can't share any part of my life with him after he behaved like a gold digger, and that even if I were able to get past this, I would never even consider getting back together because his intentions are entitled and dishonest. All in all, I'm just glad that we weren't alone. He has high blood pressure issues. Real, I've seen the medication. And sometimes I've suspected some types of mental health issues, going from 0 to 100 over things that seemed incongruent. He said he was truly sorry if he offended me and said that he felt tricked and betrayed. That breaks are meant for introspection and to seek improvement, not to abandon a relationship. that my actions will have an impact on his daughter because she really likes me. I offered to have a last call or text with her if he agreed, but his answer was, "No, F you don't get to say anything to her." He said that I'm caught up in my new mainstream life. Whatever that means, it's freaking offensive considering that I've worked for my financial stability after a few years of things being great. He told me to go suck on my colleagues' junks, but immediately apologized. I told him I'm not surprised at his behavior, since it shows me that he seems to think sex can solve anything. I also said that since he was being gross and vulgar, I'm learning just now that men like him are unfuckable, homosexual, handout seekers, and insincere, and that I will never date someone who is not financially stable ever again, because this is a huge lesson. I wish that I could say that I had left him sitting alone at the table, but he left first. When I was about to get my handbag to pay for my food, he rushed to get his backpack and walked off really quick. I blocked him everywhere, but I already changed my locks. He never had a key, nor did he stay over, but I'm just being cautious. He called one of our friends in common to vent about me, and she ended up angry with him because he was very insistent that I had mistreated him, and she told him that she needed to hear my side of the story. She and I had a long conversation, and she told me that she can't blame me because our group of friends had been noticing the imbalance in our relationship and how he seemed comfortable, including himself in conversations about business and success when, in the 16 years that she's known him, he's never gotten anything done. So that's my update. I also blocked him on social media and messaging apps. Thank you for the update. Secular usually means not religious. I'm guessing that based on the rest of the picture you've painted of this man, that his ex doesn't respect his patriarchal rights to tell her her own business and manage her own finances. He sounds like a manipulative partner at best. I don't think you would have ever wanted him as a father figure to your sons. Thanks for the clarification. OP's ex really seemed to think he was entitled to her life, her money, and her kids' future, like it was part of some twisted inheritance plan. And is secular being code for not under my control? Please. That man wasn't looking for a partner. He was out here shopping for a sponsor with a side of authority. Good riddance. OP didn't just dodge a bullet. She dodged an entire financial and emotional demolition team. Definitely dodged a massive bullet. This guy was clearly trying to use you as his retirement plan and a financial support system for his daughter while offering nothing but paternal figure BS in return. His explosion when confronted shows his true colors. The vulgar comments, emotional manipulation about his daughter, and weird accusations about your mainstream life are classic tactics of someone who got caught being predatory. Love that you stood your ground and called out his homosexual behavior. When someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. His behavior really screamed desperation and entitlement. It's telling that he tried to guilt trip you with his daughter instead of taking responsibility. You deserve someone who respects your boundaries and values. Here's to moving on and finding better. Next story. Am I the a-hole for no longer wanting to give a house to my sister? My portion of inheritance. A few years ago, our mom passed away unexpectedly, and she didn't have a will, so splitting the assets has been more of a headache than any of us anticipated. Most of us, multiple siblings involved, believe we need to prioritize relationships with each other because we understand the long-term damage that feuding over material things after someone's death can bring to families. Our mom loved her house and spent her time turning it into a dream home before her death. Some didn't want it sold off. It was then proposed that one of our sisters, who has young children, be given the house because she was looking at travel trailers for housing, and it would be a long-term, affordable, and stable home. At that time, the sale of the house to her and her husband wasn't an option because they couldn't get approved for a loan. They were told they needed to prepare themselves to get a loan for the house in case the loan wasn't assumable. And unfortunately, they didn't do that. So to this day, they still wouldn't qualify to buy it. We agreed on a nice idea, to each give the gift of our own inheritance, with an unspoken understanding that they'd plan on staying there long term. While we figured out the legal stuff, they moved in and paid the mortgage until things were made official. Unfortunately, shortly after moving in, our sister's husband would tell friends and his family that his plan was to sell the house within the next 2 years or rent it out and move. This understandably caused upset because it felt like he was looking at an opportunity to profit, not seeking long-term stability. We proposed a stipulation stating that they'd have to reside in the home for 5 years before it would be transferred solely to them, as proof that they were serious about making it their home. But her husband got really upset and wouldn't hear us out. We asked our sister what their plan was, and she said it depended on her husband's work situation, that moving wasn't off the table or fully on it, but she felt 2 years was long enough to consider it long-term. With all of this coming to light, a few of the siblings no longer wanted to sign because they didn't feel it would be fair to end up with none of the equity from a short-term living situation. We sought acknowledgement that they understood this was a huge gift and sacrifice of our inheritances, hoping he would show some gratitude so we could feel good about signing and move on. But he was not receptive. He feels that because he's done some work on the house and has paid the mortgage, it is his. It no longer feels wise to hand over my portion heedlessly, not because of the money, but because of the morality and ethics of it all. With the new information about their plans to possibly sell the property after only a short time, the sense of entitlement, and the lack of acknowledgement for how big of a gift this really is. Am I the a-hole for no longer wanting to give away my portion of the inheritance? Not the a-hole. If sis can't buy it, then she doesn't get the profits from selling it. I get not wanting to sell it to keep it in your family, but why give it to just one sibling? They're already thinking about the money in their pockets after selling their gift house. Nope. We wanted them to own the house, grow as a family, and we didn't feel it would be right to have any sense of entitlement to the equity if they were there long-term, since they were paying and caring for it. It was the plans of selling quickly and profiting off of our generosity that put a sour taste on our tongues. Most of my siblings are extremely giving, humble people without a greedy bone in their body. At the time, it felt right to send them off into life with a leg up, and we could sleep well knowing our nieces were in a beautiful home. It may have felt right at the time, but they have shown their true colors. Sell the house and take your rightful inheritance. I agree. Sell the house, and sister and a-hole brother-in-law will get their portion to do with what they will. They're not aligned with OP's values. Not the a-hole. I'm honestly not understanding the original decision anyway. Even if the sister and brother-in-law had agreed to live there for 5 years, it seems mad to me that all the siblings would gift their entire inheritance, just so the property stays in the family for 5 more years. If it's really non-negotiable that the property can't be sold straight away, can the house not stay owned by all siblings, and the sister and brother-in-law just live there at a rent that covers the mortgage? At that point, it was everyone just wanting to do a nice thing in our mom's memory, an act of love and an equitable choice to help our sister. As of now, the house is owned by all of us and will remain that way until the day comes when nobody lives in it, and nobody wants to have to cover the mortgage. I don't think we will collectively agree to sign it over to my sister and her husband anymore. Isn't it funny how you wanted to avoid the type of squabble that happens between selfish siblings by being generous, and you still end up in a squabble? I think you're taking the right step. Next story. Am I the a-hole for taking my grandparents' house? I am 26 female. My grandparents are both 68. My maternal grandparents moved from England to Brooklyn, New York in the 80s, and were lucky enough to afford a 5-bedroom townhouse, which they shared with my mom, my aunt, and my uncle. They were young parents, so there was an age gap between my mom and her siblings. For the majority of their early years in America, my grandparents just shared the house with my mom. My mom had me in her teens, so we lived in that house until I was about 10 when she got her own place. We still lived in Brooklyn, and luckily due to what my mom studied, she secured a well-paid career. After receiving an inheritance, she basically managed to buy the house outright. Fast forward to 2015. My mom died suddenly, and I inherited the house along with a substantial amount of money and my own family inheritance, which my grandparents had set up for me and my 4 cousins. The house was a good enough size for me and my then boyfriend. We welcomed a daughter a few months later and later got married. Last year, my husband and I decided to try again for a baby, and I got pregnant quite quickly. We learned we were having twins, and despite the house being 3 bedrooms, we agreed it was too small to raise 3 kids in. Now, house prices in New York are insane anyway, but with the sale of the house and using some of the money I received from the inheritance, we were in a position where we could luckily either buy a 4-bedroom property outright or at least put a large deposit down to lower mortgage costs. Well, it turned out my grandparents were looking to downsize, and I don't know how this came up, but they suggested I could take their house and they could take mine, and I just pay them the difference in what their house is worth. It would be a couple $100,000, but my husband and I had the money. We had a lot of discussions, met with lawyers, and eventually came to an agreement. I'm currently 7 months pregnant, and the sale was finalized. We've all started preparing to move, and it's caused a lot of ill feeling in my family. All my cousins have branded me an a-hole for taking advantage of our grandparents. My grandparents have responded by saying it was their idea, that my husband and I paid them for the property, and that nobody was taken advantage of. My hormones are all over the place, and it's stressing me out, as I don't know if I'm in the wrong or not. Edit. I should add that even if my grandparents kept the house, my aunt and uncle would have received it as an inheritance, as they're my grandparents' children. My cousins would have just received money, and probably some heirlooms or something. Not the a-hole. You wanted a bigger place and they wanted a smaller place. You even paid them the difference in what your houses are worth. It's win-win for everyone, and your cousins just sound jealous, to be honest. Yeah, I'm having a hard time understanding how OP's taking advantage of the grandparents in any way. Jealousy is the only explanation in my eyes, not the a-hole. They're mad because now none of them can sell it once the grandparents kick the bucket. Not the a-hole. They are probably mad that the house that will eventually be up for inheritance won't be worth as much as the one you have bought off your grandparents. Not the a-hole. I'm guessing that's one of the reasons you had lawyers involved, besides the complicated paperwork. They would be there to protect everyone's best interests. Their lawyer wouldn't let them be taken advantage of. I think your family members are more upset that this huge asset was taken out of their very long way off inheritance. If it makes you feel any better, I'm sure your grandparents are happy this house is still in the family and being put to good use while still enjoying money from the sale. It's not like we didn't trust each other. My husband and I are co-owners, but I was the one pretty much fronting the majority of the purchase, and it's a lot of money, so I wanted to be protected. I also have never purchased property before, so lawyers was the best way to go. Not the a-hole. I hope you guys enjoy the new home and congrats on the babies. I have fond memories growing up in it, and the fact I own it now warms my heart. And thank you, having another girl and a little boy. Last story. Am I the a-hole for wanting to back out of doing my sister-in-law a favor cause I don't like that she installed cameras to be on a safe side? My wife used to get our niece ready and take her to daycare every Friday since she was off and her sister had to be at work by 6:30 and daycare did not open until 7. My wife's work schedule changed and she could no longer do it, so I offered to change my schedule around to start work at 10. We have been doing this for around 4 months. My sister-in-law has voiced no concerns, and when she calls, I always answer. We recently found out she installed cameras in her house. When my wife brought it up, she told her, "You never know." I'll be honest, I was taken aback because she has had no complaints in the past, but now she wants to have cameras because you never know? My wife did ask her sister if I had done anything that made her concerned or worried. She said no, but that it was a safety issue. Once again, she told my wife, "You never know." At this point, I told my wife I don't want to go into her house. I don't feel comfortable being in a home or around her daughter if she's that concerned. My wife agrees it is weird, also considering I have known her sister for over 16 years. Others think I am blowing it out of proportion, but I don't like how she assumes the worst of me just because I am male. She told my wife she had no concerns when she was the one doing it. Are you sure the camera was installed specifically to monitor you or for general security? If it is just for you, then check out the team memo that went out yesterday afternoon. It turns out that your schedule has changed and you will no longer be able to start work at 10 o'clock. Yeah, I'd be getting an email from my boss in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 bing, saying I need to go back to coming in at 8 a.m. starting tomorrow. You never know some things, but I know that after that stunt, I'm permanently retired from entering my sister's house, and she can find someone else to provide free childcare. Not the a-hole. She can keep her you never know and switch her hours around. She is waiting for you two to mess up and to destroy your family. Not the a-hole. You stepped up to help, and she repaid you with suspicion. If she doesn't trust you, she can find someone else.